Well, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's an absolute honor to be with you today. We're talking about my favorite subject of brand. So we've been hearing some fantastic talks in the summit from amazing experts in tactical delivery of marketing. And my bit of work kind of starts a bit before then in the strategic approach, because I believe that brand should be owned by all parts of an organization, not just marketing. I know traditionally it's kind of been given a marketing bent, but I'm here to champion a wider kind of approach. I define brand as the meaning that we attach to an audience, to a company or its product or its offering, right? It's the meaning that people attach to you. So brand really is in the eyes of the beholder, the perception. A lot of people say, you know, if you were to ask the average person what's a brand, they might say a logo and some fonts. I don't think that's the case at all. I think the logo and the fonts are part of it, but a small part of actually a much wider kind of definition. So this is my definition: the meaning people attach to your offering. And branding, which is the game all of us should be in, is the management of that meaning. All right. So marketing, a key part, obviously, of that. And obviously that's what we're here at the Digital Summit really to focus on. But the truth is that, does this work? Laser. There we are, laser. So the truth is that the brand you see sits at the heart of the business. It runs through the culture and the employee experience and the hiring processes, the HR, the people team, and all the great work they do. It runs through the product and the services that the business actually offers out there. And the offering. It runs through the customer experience and all the touch points the customer goes through. And finally, it ends up, I would say, at the end, which is your marketing and communications. And the brand runs all the way through that. And if we do our jobs correctly as brand builders, it comes out to the audience and they create meaning in their mind. And ultimately, they decide whether, hopefully, to buy from us or not. So the issue that we've got, of course, is that we are living in a time-poor society. People have got less time, but the other issue that they've got is they've got more choice. And so what happens is when faced with exponential choice, how do we filter out all of the noise? It's a nightmare for consumers. Particularly, we've heard a lot in the conference about the rise of AI. I'm kind of terrified because I'm just worried that we're all just going to start churning out more and more and stuff, and customers back off more and more, and they go back to more traditional ways of thinking, which is they ask their friends, they ask their peers. We really have to do the work on the actual customer experiences that we're delivering. The actual value that we're bringing to the market is going to become more and more important. And so it's helpful. I'm not a psychologist, right? But it's helpful to know kind of how the human brain works. Because what the psychologists tell us is that when faced with massive choice, what we actually do is we kind of filter out very quickly the options before us. So we kind of initially, if we've got a problem or an issue, we seek solutions. And then we're faced with this massive offerings. What we then do is we filter out the immediate stuff that's completely useless. We tend to notice what's different and unusual from the crowd. And then what we do is we categorize solutions. And usually, as I say, it depends how we do it, but it depends what sector or industry you're in, but often influenced by multiple factors, mainly usually what our peers are recommending to us, word of mouth, Trustpilot reviews, Amazon reviews, whatever it might be. We select an option, and that becomes like the number one option in our mind for that particular challenge or solution over time. And once we lodge ourselves into a consumer's mind in that box, and we become the number one in there for them, it's very hard to take that off. So I could have showed you loads of stats about, the best brands in particular categories. They dominate the marketplaces. Coca-Cola dominates the soft drink market. It's not, Apple is dominating, the markets for technical goods. So once you get there and you do your job properly, it's really hard to shift. So the actual aim, I would say, for anybody building brands is to find your category and dominate that category, because it's really hard for anyone to shift you once you've done that well. So my message to you today is I'm going to share with you in a minute a little strategy that I picked up over the years, and I find it really powerful. I work with my clients on it. But really, what this is about, stop following the crowd. What I see a lot of businesses doing when they come to work with me is, I say, how are you doing things? And we look at their we look at what they're doing, and I ask them about the decision making and the way they've positioned themselves. And often they sort of look up to the big boys in their industry and they try and follow what the big boys are doing, or girls, right? But the issue is that then you just become one of many. So the aim of the game is to stop following, is to see where you can lead, where you can put that step forward in a valuable way so that you build a brand. And so my mantra is, look, don't just be good. You've got to be good. The bar for good is very low. Be good and different so that you're the right choice for the right people. This is what we want. We want our brand to be the only choice for a particular type of audience, so they don't think of anyone else because we're dominating that box in their mind. I don't know why, by the way, that had white at the top and bottom, but never mind. You know, we move on. So here we are. So I have, you know, a lot of us strategically will know about the 3 C's. And if you don't know about the 3 C's, this is a great, great thing to understand. Really, there's 3 key strategic things that you need to think about when you're starting a business or building a brand. It's the company itself, what are the ambitions in the company, what's its credibility, what's its past, what's its capabilities. So there's some analysis that you need to do there. Then there's what do the customers want, who do we serve, who are they, what are their pain points, not just in terms of demographic, but psychographic, who are we set up best to serve. And then finally, what's the competition doing? And in between those kind of 3 areas, if you can find a niche and an area that's not being covered off, that's going to be your positioning superpower. That's going to be where your sweet spot is in order to amplify everything you're doing. And I'm sure there's a lot of marketeers in the room that know when they've got a product that sits well in this area, your job is so easy. So what I tend to do is come in early, help the leadership team rally around whatever that is, help them set the course, okay? And then that becomes the brief then for great marketing, but not just marketing, what's going on with the people team, what product and innovation are doing, ops are doing, and all that stuff. So that's where I sort of sit. And what I like to do with leaders is ask these 3 questions, which I think is quite fun, because I often find no one really has an aligned kind of answer to what these questions are. So the first question is like, why do you exist beyond making money? So, you go into a lot of boardrooms, a lot of, fat white people in there, to be honest, and you say like, why do you exist? Are they like, well, we want to exist to sell out, we're exiting in 5 years, or we're going to turn over X million, or the board, the shareholders want us to get to here. It's like, okay, I get that. I'm not, I'm a commercial person. I understand we're a business. But frankly, nobody outside of these 4 walls cares that you want to get rich. Why do we exist beyond making money is a question which drives purpose, vision, mission, everything. You've got to know that from your leadership team. If you don't know that, go and knock on the door and try and get a workshop where that's explored, because you can't do your job as a marketer, I would suggest, unless you know an answer to that. The other question you need to know the answer to is, well, who do we serve? So why do we exist beyond making money? Who exactly are we set up to serve? As businesses are small, they're like, we'll serve anyone that will buy from us. It's like, yeah, that's great, but you can't put resources into marketing to everybody. So we have to kind of niche a little bit. Who are those types of people? How can we orientate our service and experiences towards a particular type of person to add huge value? The other question is of course, well, how do we show up? So once we know who we're trying to help, how do we show up for them? And that then can drive down into all your marketing tactics, but also, tone of voice, brand identity, all that good stuff sits in there. And finally, what's our offer? What's our promise? What's our value proposition? What are we saying to these people? So there's your 4 questions: why, how, who, and what. And the biggest question I would suggest that you can add and layer on top of all them is this question in the top left in the little circle: where are we different? Because remember, we've got to be different to be noticed. We've got to know where our superpower is so that we can leverage that and really kind of hammer it home. So you might be different. You might not be different in what you do. You might say, Matt, I'm working in a regulated industry like finance or medical sector or whatever. So there's lots of people that do what we do. Okay, great. So you can't differentiate on what you do. I get that. But maybe then you can differentiate in how you do it, or why you do it. Maybe you do it for a particular reason and you give to charity or whatever it might be. But find an angle of why you're different and make that a point of your marketing. Anyway, I waffle on. So what makes your brand different? Like really, really different. Because remember, to be noticed in the sea of sameness, you have to have an edge. You have to have something that you really stand for. Now, what would be the benefits of differentiating like that? I mean, there's tons. I won't go through loads. But obviously, if you become known for being the only choice for a particular type of customer, perhaps the biggest benefit is you can start to eradicate some of the competition in the sense that you become specialized in that area and there's no one else playing in that area. I don't know if anyone's read the book Blue Ocean Strategy, but that, if you haven't, read that, because that's all about how you move away from a red ocean where there's loads of competitors fighting and there's blood all over the ocean and sharks are in there, and you swim out of that lovely ocean into the blue ocean where there's not many people fighting, and because you've deliberately chosen to differentiate and move in that direction for the right people to serve them well. So it's hard to copy if you do that really, really well. You can get greater customer loyalty. You obviously get greater staff loyalty if you're trying to hire top talent and you're in a scale-up situation. Come to us, we're doing this, and you really know your stuff, and that really is appealing. Hard to get any substitutes. Obviously, you can also then start to look at the price and the profit margins. You can demand more because you are the only ones that people will go to. It's what becomes known as a charismatic brand. Like a brand that if they went away, like people would literally be crying. So there's some people in the room that will take the mickey out of me, but I love Apple. Like, I don't think I'd cry if Apple died, but I'd be close to tears because we love those sorts of brands because they do things in a certain way that no one else can do. Now I'm going to introduce you to what I call the pinnacle of all positioning statements. We love positioning statements. So you do your work with your leadership team and you kind of understand why you're different and where you're going to focus and orientate everything, not just your marketing, everything to that perspective. And this is how I like to sum it up. So this is my mentor, Marty Neumeier. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's written some amazing books on brand. But he taught me this. And it's called the ONLYNESS statement. And by the way, I thought we could maybe do it as a little mini workshop. So if you've got a pad and a pen or a phone, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I'm going to do it. Is it all right? So try and see if you can fill this out, okay? So it goes a little bit like this. This is a simplified version. There's expanded versions, but this is a simplified version. Our brand is the only, whatever category you're in, define your category, is the only category or only brand in that category that does this thing. So if you can sit down there and think that and answer that, out of interest, I won't call on you, but if I got you to raise your hand, how many people here could get a decent statement in there that would be true? Raise your hand if you can. One, okay, a few. All right. I won't ask you, I won't put you on the spot because I'm running out of time. But, it's a really great thing to do with your leadership team. Sit them down and ask them to fill that out and then compare and see if it's right. And challenge, is it true? Is it right? Because, so for example, I don't know, there's a new brand that's launched in the US. You might have heard about it. I've interviewed one of their top guys on my podcast called Liquid Death. It's water in a can. And they're crazy. They do all sorts of crazy campaigns. And so their ONLYNESS would be like, our brand is the only water beverage that you can buy in a can and makes you feel like a rock star. So they do a lot of kind of crazy marketing and stuff like that. That would be their kind of ONLYNESS. Or I don't know if anybody's familiar, I've done a little bit work with Cooper Parry in the East Midlands. They're an accountancy firm. The rebels of accountancy, they do everything different than what they should. Check them out. But theirs might be, our brand is the only accounting service that embraces the radical entrepreneurial mindset. And so these are really easy ways you can sort of focus in on a point of differentiation that's true and authentic, that a leadership team can endorse, that would help you do your jobs, really, really well, because you can imagine out of those where you could go. These are some examples that I've seen. I don't know if anyone's seen this one, the Remarkable one. The little pads that you can get. I don't know if anyone's got those in the audience, but this is the only tablet that helps you focus. Why? Because you've not got a million things popping up, so that's their focal point. And there's loads others. There's loads of others that you can get. The only carbon neutral tea company was Pucker Tea for a while. I don't know if they can claim that anymore. But these are really kind of key ways of positioning. So as I was going to do this, but I don't think I've got huge amounts of time. Yeah, 5. First step would be to brainstorm all the things that you think make you different. And the second thing to do would be to fill out your ONLYNESS statement. Our brand is the only blank that blanks. Do that. Message me afterwards on LinkedIn. I'd love to see what you can do. Now, what would happen, and it was interesting, I would say, would you say about 20% of the people in the room said they could authentically answer that? Would that be a fair assessment? Under, over? About 20. We're being generous, maybe 20. So if you're in the other 80% of people sat in the room thinking, yeah, we're not really that different, we don't really know where we're different, then I would suggest that you need to do some work in your businesses, because you've really got to have that edge, as I say, you've got to have that angle in order to hit high growth. So what I suggest is there's a really cool method called the assumption flip, which is quite fun, which is where you have, and I know some people have been in my workshops and we've done this, where you have all the typical things that you would expect from the type of business in your, type of business in your category. List them all out, like a wine shop, for example, right? Okay, I own a wine shop. I expect a wine shop to have floor-to-ceiling wine bottles. I expect it to be quite dark and dusty when I walk in, and somebody who's really nerdy come out, and maybe there's some classical music on or something. And look at all of the features and see what you can flip. See what you can change in that typical thing. What if you completely flip it? So instead of tons of wine bottles, maybe there's only 6 on the front desk, for example, and maybe it's more like Apple-esque. And maybe when you go in, rather than there's some nerdy person there, maybe there's an iPad around each one, and maybe the whole, you can really start to think through a different experience that would add huge value to a particular part of the market if you go to work on what makes you different. And so, as I say, have a look at your why, your how, your who, and your what. Ask, why are we different, or where are we different in these areas? And do that assumption flip, or do that ONLYNESS exercise to really find something that will ignite your marketing and take your brand to the next level. My kind of message to you is, and I think we take this for granted too much, is we take the brief from the leadership team and off we go. But we've got to manage the meaning. We've got to push back at them. We've got to try and get something of substance to market. And this is perhaps, hopefully I've shared this idea with you so that you can do that. So thank you so much. I hope that was all right. Am I in time? Look at that. I'm on Sarah's Good Books. I was just going to say before I sit down, a few things from me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. I've got a 80-odd episode global podcast. I've written a book, and I also consult. So, if you need me, you know where I am. I want to say thanks so much. Keep managing your meaning, and I hope that was useful to you. Thank you.